Okay, welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take that stack of source material. You send us articles, newsletters, all that good stuff, and we really dig in. We try to pull out the most important bits, maybe the surprising connections, and figure out what it means for you.
Exactly. It's about cutting through all the noise. Right. You give us the info, we sort of guide you through it, connect the dots, and really focus on why it matters in the real world.
Yeah. And today, we've got a great batch from a listener. It covers a lot, recent AI updates, some interesting robotic stuff, what the big tech players are up to, and some startup action, too. Mostly newsletters and articles from the last little while.
So our mission here is pretty clear. Navigate all these updates, find the key trends, pinpoint the really crucial developments, and most importantly, understand the implications. Like, how does this all fit together? What does it mean for someone like you following this space?
Right. So let's jump in. We'll keep it conversational, follow our curiosity, and hopefully uncover some things that, make you think. Let's unpack this stack.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, let's kick off with tech that actually, physically moves. Robots, drones. Seems like they're really pushing beyond the warehouse.
We saw some interesting notes on Amazon's experiments.
Yeah, the thing that really jumped out at me was this humanoid park they've built. Did you see that?
A humanoid park. Tell me more.
It's apparently an indoor obstacle course, maybe the size of a coffee shop, specifically designed just to test humanoid robots navigating, messy real-world type environments.
Wow, like a robot proving ground. That's kind of wild. And it sounds like Amazon isn't necessarily building the whole robot themselves. They're focusing more on the brains.
Exactly. They're pouring resources into the AI software, the intelligence to power these robots, but often using hardware from other companies.
Okay, that makes sense. And the end goal seems pretty ambitious. Maybe robots handling deliveries.
That seems to be the direction, yeah. The idea mentioned was robots potentially riding inside Amazon's Rivian vans and then, hopping out to make the final delivery to your door.
From inside the van, that'd be a huge shift. Definitely. Changes the whole last mile equation.
And it's not just ground robots making moves. Autonomous delivery is buzzing, especially up in the air. Walmart and Wing.
Right, Wing Alphabet's drone company. They're seriously expanding their partnership with Walmart. This isn't just a tiny pilot anymore.
How big are we talking?
The plan is to roll out drone delivery to over 100 Walmart stores.
Over 100. Wow.
Yeah, across 5 big U.S. metro areas: Atlanta, Charlotte, Houston, Orlando, Tampa, and also the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
That really feels like they're moving past the trial stage. This is scaling up. A 5-fold increase with Walmart, the source said. That shows some real confidence.
It definitely suggests drone delivery might become, almost normal in those areas, faster than maybe we expected. It feels like it's happening.
Yeah, and just quickly sticking with Rivian for a second, totally different angle. Joni Ives' design firm, Love From, they're working with Rivian too.
Oh, yeah. On what?
An electric bike.
Huh. Interesting. So the same company involved in potential delivery robots is also doing high-design e-bikes. Shows the breadth of innovation, I guess.
Exactly. Exploring all sorts of mobility. Okay, let's shift gears. From physical movement to information processing at lightning speed, AI. Lots happening here.
For sure. First up, Google's upgraded Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's in preview.
Right. And they're highlighting some pretty impressive performance, aren't they?
Yeah, particularly in coding benchmarks, like something called Aider Polyglot. Also scoring really well on general knowledge and reasoning tests like GPQA and Humanity's Last Exam.
They even threw out some ELO scores, like in chess rankings, but for AI models.
Yeah.
1460 on Elmarina, 1443 on WebDev Arena. That really shows the competitive landscape.
And general availability is supposed to be coming pretty soon.
Okay. And it's not just these giant models. 11 Labs, they're known for that super realistic text-to-speech, right?
Exactly. They've got a new version, 11v3. The big things seem to be even better expressiveness and much wider language support.
Which is huge for global use. I saw Africans, Arabic, French, Mandarin listed. That makes a difference.
Definitely. And Google Labs is also playing with more specific AI applications, something called Portraits.
Portraits. What's that? Personalized coaching.
Yeah, built with actual experts. It uses Gemini to kind of simulate conversations with an expert via an interactive avatar. So instead of just reading their stuff, you could maybe talk to an AI trained on their knowledge.
Huh. That's a fascinating way to interact with expertise.
Very cool.
Very cool. And we're also seeing AI making real inroads in creative fields, like AMC Networks using runway AI.
Right. They're using it for things like marketing images and pre-visualization for shows.
Pre-visualization, so like figuring out shots beforehand.
Exactly. But they stressed it's not currently for use in the final shows themselves. That's an important point.
Okay, so it's a tool for the creative process, helping figure out what works visually without spending a ton on actually shooting or building stuff.
Makes sense. Saves time and money exploring ideas. And apparently other studios are doing similar things, just maybe more quietly.
Right. There was another tool mentioned too, Modify Video.
Yeah, that sounds like post-production wizardry. It lets pros change things like backgrounds, lighting, even textures in a video.
Without messing up the actor's movements.
Exactly, without altering the core motion. That could be a massive time saver.
No kidding. Okay, so beyond those tools, there were also some really specific AI applications mentioned. Claude Composer CLI.
Right. That enhances Anthropic's Claude code for developers, adds automation, configurable permissions, basically makes it easier to manage coding workflows using the AI.
Streamlining things for coders.
Got it.
And then on a totally different scale, Anthropic also has these Claude Gov models.
Yeah, specifically for U.S. national security customers, optimized for intelligence and defense work.
Wow.
And apparently already deployed in classified environments. That says a lot about the level of trust and specialized tuning needed for really sensitive AI use.
Deployed in classified settings. Yeah, that's definitely pushing boundaries. And all this progress, unsurprisingly, means huge money flowing into AI startups.
Oh, yeah. Any sphere they make, Cursor, that AI coding assistant, they just raised $900 million.
$900 million for a coding assistant.
At a nearly $10 billion valuation, shows massive confidence in AI tools for developers.
Incredible. And Perplexity, the AI search engine, they're seeing real growth too.
780 million queries last month, growing over 20% month over month. That's significant user adoption. And they're apparently planning their own browser now called Comet.
So it's not just hype. People are actually using these tools. The speed and just the range of all this AI development is kind of staggering.
It really is, from the big foundational models battling it out to these specialized tools right down to classified deployments.
Okay, so lots of excitement, but the sources also hit on some critical stuff, limitations, challenges, especially around privacy. Let's get into that. Apple did some research on reasoning limits.
Yes, this was really interesting. They tested models like OpenAI's O3, Claude, DeepSeek R1 on complex puzzles, and they found performance just collapsed beyond a certain point.
Collapsed, even when the AI was trying to show its work, like step by step.
Apparently so. And here's the really counterintuitive part. As the puzzles got harder, the models seemed to put in less reasoning effort.
Less effort on harder problems. That doesn't sound right.
It suggests a potential limit, right? And even giving them the exact algorithm to solve the puzzle didn't help on the really complex one.
Huh. So maybe they don't reason quite like we think they do. That's a really important reality check amidst all the hype.
Definitely.
Now, switching gears pretty sharply, there's this massive legal development. The New York Times suing OpenAI.
Yes, and a specific court order in that case really caught my eye. A federal judge ordered OpenAI to preserve all user conversations indefinitely.
Wait, hang on. Preserve all conversations. Like even chats I thought it deleted.
That seems to be the scope, based on the reporting and OpenAI's reaction. Deleted chats, temporary chats, even stuff sent through their standard API that businesses use.
So unless you're on a specific enterprise plan or something.
The exceptions mentioned were enterprise, education, and their zero data retention API.
Otherwise, anything you typed into ChatGPT could just be kept forever because of this lawsuit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's unsettling.
That's the apparent implication. OpenAI reportedly pushed back hard, calling it sweeping and unnecessary, and saying it clashes with their privacy promises to users.
You can see why. And Sam Altman's apparently talking about meeting AI privilege, like doctor-patient confidentiality, but for AI chats.
It raises that fundamental question, doesn't it? What level of privacy should these conversations have, especially when people share really personal stuff?
Yeah. And the sources also have that chart comparing data collection by different AIs based on what they claim in the App Store notices.
Right. Meta AI looked like the highest, collecting 32 out of 35 data types financial health info listed. Google Gemini at 22, including location, contacts. Then ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot around 10, and Grok the lowest.
And this is a big But that's just what they say they collect, right? The sources pointed out server-side tracking is still possible.
Exactly. It's a snapshot based on self-reporting, so the full picture might be murkier. Which brings us back to that court order.
Yeah, because it kind of proves that claims about deleting data might not mean much if a court can just order them to keep everything anyway.
Precisely. And the danger, as one piece put it, is the precedent. Other AI companies might look at this and think, well, maybe we should just keep everything from the start, just in case.
Ugh. So our chats with AI could become permanent records by default, unless there are stronger legal protections. That definitely changes how you think about using these tools.
It's something to be aware of, for sure. And related to potential misuse, OpenAI's own threat intelligence report was mentioned.
What did that find? AI creating new cyber threats.
Not entirely new threats, but significantly accelerating existing ones, like helping North Korean groups get around sanctions, helping Russian actors with malware, making scams in Cambodia more effective by generating convincing text really fast in multiple languages.
So AI is a force multiplier for bad actors, making existing threats worse, faster.
Pretty much. And there was also that warning from the London High Court to lawyers.
Oh yeah, about citing fake cases generated by AI.
A clear reminder that AI can just make stuff up, hallucinate, and relying on it uncritically, especially in fields like law, is seriously risky.
Good point. Okay, let's pivot from AI's highs and lows to some other quick tech updates across the board. Apple's App Store legal battle.
Right. A federal court denied their appeal, so that earlier ruling stands, at least for now. Developers in the U.S. must be allowed to point users to outside payment options without giving Apple a cut.
That could really impact Apple's App Store business model, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Allowing payments outside their ecosystem.
Potentially, yeah. It's a significant development for developers wanting more flexibility. We also saw that study on Apple Watch accuracy. You use yours all the time, right?
Yep. How accurate is it, really?
Pretty good for heart rate, apparently about 4.4% error. And step counts were decent too, around 8.2% error, but
Yeah.
less reliable for calories burned.
How much less reliable?
Around 28% inaccuracy reported in the study.
Okay, so useful for trends and motivation,
Mhm.
maybe not for precise calorie counting. Good to know. Frame it as a guide, not gospel.
Exactly. And Apple's always tweaking the tech, of course. Switching gears again, Google Chrome hit a record on the Speedometer 3 test.
Highest score ever, yeah. And Speedometer 3 is interesting because it's a collaboration. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Mozilla, Intel, all working together on a benchmark for web responsiveness.
So it's a widely accepted measure of how snappy a browser feels. Good sign for Chrome users. Less positive news. That AT&T data sale investigation.
Right, reports of 86 million customer records being sold online. AT&T suggested it might be old data from a past breach being resold, which happens a lot.
Still, the alleged data is worrying. Dates of birth, phone numbers, emails, addresses, and reportedly 44 million social security numbers in plain text.
Plain text SSNs. Yikes. That's incredibly sensitive stuff. A reminder that data breaches have long tails.
Absolutely. Okay, on a little note, a new gadget. Hensense M2 Pro Smart Mini Projector.
Oh yeah, what's special about that one?
Sounds very compact, uses triple laser tech for good color, pretty bright at 1300 lumens, and it has this cool feature that adjusts the color automatically if you're projecting onto like a beige wall instead of a white screen.
Oh, that's actually really smart. Practical. And it projects a big image, too.
Yeah, 65 up to 200 inches. Pre-order was around $1,300. Seems like a nice portable home theater option.
Definitely.
Shows ongoing innovation in making projectors smaller and smarter. Just a couple more quick ones. X is testing a way to boost community notes
Boost them how?
by showing a special call-out box when a post gets lots of likes, but a community note on it has also been rated helpful by people with differing views, kind of highlighting consensus context on potentially tricky posts.
Interesting idea. Using agreement to surface counterpoints. And the DeviantArt founder made a super expensive display for digital art.
Yeah, $22,000, specifically designed just to show digital art at its best, speaks to that market growing.
Definitely niche, but cool. Okay, circling back quickly to cars and autonomy, Uber made some moves.
Executive changes signaling a renewed focus on autonomy. Their CEO talked about supporting the whole AV ecosystem. Remember, Uber has stakes in companies like Aurora and Waabi.
Right, so maybe less about building it all themselves, more about partnering and integrating,
Right.
but still aiming for autonomy.
Seems like it. And Tesla filed trademarks for Tesla Robotaxi.
Still pushing that specific branding after all this time?
Yeah, it keeps the dream alive, I suppose. Shows both companies are still heavily invested in an autonomous future, one way or another. Oh, and one last point, Redwood Materials.
The battery recycling company, what about them?
They actually walked away from a conditional loan approval from the Department of Energy.
Turn down government money?
Well,
Why?
they cited the process being really long and expensive, plus the strings attached. And crucially, while they were waiting, they raised over $2 billion privately.
Ah, so the private money came through faster and maybe with fewer conditions.
Seems like it. An interesting case study in how fast private capital can sometimes move compared to government programs.
Wow, okay. We covered a lot of ground there. From robots delivering packages, drones buzzing overhead, to AI's incredible power and its worrying blind spots. Plus all those updates for the big players.
Yeah, pulling it all together really gives you that sense of interconnection, doesn't it? How AI impacts robotics, how legal cases affect privacy, how big tech decisions ripple outwards. It's moving so fast.
And none of this is just abstract tech news, right? These are the shifts that are actually changing how you live, how you work, how you interact with technology every day.
Absolutely. And thinking about our discussion, especially that court order about OpenAI potentially having to keep all user chats, it really leaves you with a heavy question, doesn't it?
Which is,
Well, if your conversations with AI, even the ones you thought were private or deleted, might actually stick around forever, how does that change your relationship with these tools? How much do you trust them going forward?
that is definitely something to chew on. A huge thank you to the listener who sent in this fantastic source material for our deep dive today. Really fascinating stuff.
Agreed. It's always great to see what insights are waiting inside the stacks you send our way.